Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you. I don't know where my co-host Hawkeye is at the moment. I hope he's all right. If you're wondering, I don't know. Let's see, but I am back. I am here. Yes, there's a Tribal Tuesday today. Yes, I agree. Yeah, Wayne Steiger. Well, no Steiger today. Yeah, at least there's a Tribal Tuesday today. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know where Hawkeye is. I tried to call him and, no answer. So I'm kind of a little worried about him. But, last week he was still recuperating and I had to work. And the week before that, he was ill and I had to work. But today I am here and we're doing the show. Kind of waiting for him. I sent him another invite, all that good stuff, and I'm keep checking. Nothing. I don't know. I really don't know. But keep him in your prayers and in your thoughts, and maybe he will show up. So, right back with the show here tonight. We're going to be talking about the California Indians, and Chris Smith says hello, and he also says, finally, California. Yes. Now there's a lot of natives in the California area, Oregon, all the way up into Washington. And we're going to kind of be doing all of them. So remember, go out and, check in. We're next few weeks, we're going to be doing all of those, a little bit on them tonight. And then we're going to move on to a focus of different tribes. Yes, Scotty Boy says, aloha. Anyway, what happened to David? I don't know. I don't know where he is. Maybe the time change got him there. The time changes but just send out good prayers for him and hopefully all will be well. We'll see what happens. I live in the Fernando Valley and the Native Americans called it the Valley of Smoke. Interesting. Maybe we'll have to look into that. But anyway, we're going to continue on and maybe David will show up and, we'll have our Hawkeye back and we'll see what happens. But for now, I'm going to just plow through and continue on with the show. I'm sure he's fine. But, I don't know what's going on. But like I said, just send him good vibes and your prayers to him, and hopefully he will make it on. And if he's not feeling good, hopefully he'll be well. So we got like 5 or 6 tribes around here. Oh yeah, gee, yeah, there's a bunch of them. There's a heap load of people in California, a whole bunch of them. So let's start out. And tonight you want to do something with me here. Don't sit there in front of the, don't look at the frontier through a postcard. That's what we're doing. A museum label, because anybody can go to a museum, or some polished up school book version. And I want you to stand at the edge of the timber of the forest, and we're going to, or maybe the riverbank or wherever you're at, stand in the smoke of a cooking fire. Stand where the game trails run out into the country and where the sound of a wagon wheels does not mean progress yet. It means someone is coming. Because this story was not neat when it happened. It was not clean and it was not simple. The old record says that the Indians were jealous and angry at the constant invasion of their hunting grounds. Now, stop right there and hear that for what it is. It's not poetry. That is not Hollywood. They didn't just, roll in the 49ers and start panning gold. The Indians are like, hey, how you doing? That's what people, it's like people watching strangers move into your country. And they fed them. They held their dead, carried their stories and gave them life. And then the same old account says that something even colder. To leave them undisturbed was, however, no part of the plan in these white men. That's right. There was no plan to leave the Indians where they were. So that's kind of what it was. They wanted to come into their country And their plan was to disrupt everything. There's no sugarcoating it, no pretending, and nobody knew what was happening. The settlers wanted land, and the speculators, they wanted control. Because, it's all about the money. And the native people knew exactly what that movement meant. So when we talk about this, about the West, we always do. Let's not talk like this was some empty stage waiting for actors. It was already occupied. There was already people there. It wasn't just a big woodland that said, come and cut my trees down and build a cabin. It was already named and known. And if you live in that area or any area, maybe you will realize that some of the rivers, the areas, the towns even, are kind of named after Indian names, Indian tribes. And you say, what does this mean? Oh, I grew up in a little town called Necedah. And when I found out that what did Necedah mean, it meant Yellow River. Yeah, because we had a lot of jack pines, and then the water from the pine needles would run into the river, and it would make the river yellow in that area because there were so many of them. And so they called it Yellow River area, which became Necedah. And that's how I grew up. And I didn't even know it was an Indian name until many years later. It was just how it was. Oh, well, anyway, they were not all heroes either, these people. Some were desperate, and some were ambitious, and some were lied to, and some believed the promises. Some believed God had opened up the land for them. Oh, yeah, just all throw it in for God, God made that land millions of years ago just for you to settle down and cut those big trees down, make a cabin. Go figure. He made all the animals running around so you can shoot them, kill them, eat them, and put them on your table, right? Some of these people came hungry, tired, and worn down, and half broken before they even laid eyes on the place they meant to claim. We know that true because we just studied the Oregon Trail, and these people coming from out west had a long, miserable trip, probably 18 months or better, to get there. And when they got there, their wagon was broken down, their money was gone, their cattle were weak and skinny, and their horses or mules were barely moving, if they had them at all. And they left half their belongings along the trail. They suffered and died. They lost loved ones. They got sick. And when they arrived in California, Oregon, Washington areas, they were like, oh, this is the land. But there was this is the greatest land ever. But there was a lot of hard work left to do. Well, when they arrived without food and without land and little money and no experience, think of that. That is the other side of the story. It's not where the music plays in the movies where, hey, we arrived and the grass is green on the other side of the mountain. They come down and the music, we're saved. No, it's not like that. There was no cabin that was already built. The hard labor was ahead. There was not a field that was ready to fence, and there was no food and gardens planted. Yeah, it was a little windy out today, Scotty boy, so my face got a little red. But people who had reached the end of the trail only to find that when they arrived, it was not like a rescue. There wasn't people there saying, hey, you made it to California, welcome here, and if Scotty boy was there, you'd give him a lay and and saying aloha. But hey, that's not what happened. They said, oh, you're broke and poor, you better go out and cut a tree down and make yourself your own cabin. And then you better get a job. And then you better hustle. And then you better, these people ended up working on railroads, and they ended up panning for gold, and they did whatever they could possibly do to make money. So they worked hard, broke, poor, hungry. Because the rival was just the beginning of another fight with nature, with survival, and with the people who already lived there, the Native Americans. So when you see these movies on TV, it's not nostalgic, looking at it because it's kind of not really what happened. There was a lot of tough times. There's very few movies out there that portray it as it really was. It was the native people are watching the edge of the world give way. The settlers are starting into a country they do not understand. Remember, they're from out east, and they come out here, and they got the giant redwoods and, bear and elk and stuff they just didn't see. Mountains, and you'd be in the mountains. You could go down the mountain. You got sunny weather. It was crazy. Both sides are measuring each other up. They're looking at each other. Both sides knew something is changing, and nobody standing there in real time knows how bloody, how bitter, and how permanent that change will be. That is the West. And tonight we are not here to sanitize it. We are here to stand in it and just see exactly what happened. And tonight we're gonna get around, and we're gonna try to how would I say, see it from the natives' perspective, find out what happened to those guys who came from on the Oregon Trail. What actually happened to them too? So anyway, so I'm going to read something from this Indian woman, Zitkala-Sa, and this was from one of my older books that I had. As a native woman, and I'm sure I'm butchering her name, Zitkala. We'll just call her Zitkala, and because anyway, remembering it's her words, what it felt like when the world of her mother was being taken apart. So she's a young girl, and and she's trying to figure things out, and maybe because everything changed so fast. One day they're living in the woods. They're collecting their berries and bushes and fishing in the streams, catching the salmon, and hunting deer and things like that. And the next day, some man shows up and says, "Hey, I'm claiming this land, cutting down all the trees. I'm going to block up that salmon river, and we're going to have a dam there." Oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying. Well, Zitkala, this is what she says, and gives something, and she gives this rare talk like. Anyway, let's just get into it. She doesn't she's like a native about native. She's going to talk about native life, like an outsider looking in. She speaks from the inside, because she's native. What's happening in her world. And as a native woman, remembering a childhood that was free, beautiful, and full of love, but already shadowed by loss, she remembers running beside her mother to the river, feeling as free as the wind. And that freedom is the first thing you hear in her voice. The pain that comes in, and her mother tells her, "If the paleface does not take away from us the river we drink," and later says, "The paleface has stolen our lands and driven us hither." And that one memory, Zitkala, shows us the whole truth of conquest, not just land taken, but families broken and graves left behind. And child was learning why her mother cries. What makes it so powerful is that she gives you both worlds at once. First, the native world, as it felt from within, the river, the wigwam, the old people, the stories, and the freedom of childhood. Then the other world pressing in, removal, grief, and the cold reality that native people were being pushed aside in their own homeland. She says her people were driven like a herd of buffalo, and that the lines tell you everything about her invasion. Felt like from the native side, not theory, and not politics, but human beings forced along through fear and sickness and sorrow. Well, we'll sum it up. It's her voices of memory and freedom and heartbreak. Well, let's hear what she had to feel like a child living in a native world, and then to watch the world that was wounded by something coming of the white man. And her writing is so powerful because it's a history lesson from the outside. She was living this. So, see where I can find this. I had this all wrote down somewhere. Oh, see, that's what I get for taking notes. Oh, anyway, here she goes. She talks about land. Let's go back for fear and loss. If the pale face does not take away from us the river we drink, that line, that tells you a lot. She says, I hate the pale face that makes my mother cry. About the land. The pale face has stolen our lands and driven us hither. I think we just said that one. And then we were driven, my children, driven like a herd of buffalo. And it was in the hands of strangers whom my mother did not fully trust. Again, as from a native perspective. Then again, she was sent to boarding school. Back again into a pale face day. Okay. Then it goes on and says, I am many times trudging in days a harness, heavy-footed like a dumb, sick brute. I wonder how she was being treated. And her identity. The chains which tightly bound my individuality like a mummy for burial. Now, this is stuff we are living through all the time. We just don't know it. But when you're free and then you end up, in prison from not being free, I don't think none of us know what freedom really is. She says, the melancholy of those black days has left so long a shadow that it darkens the path of years that have since gone by. Wow. Yeah. I mean, she was in grief. She was really. Anyway, so that is some of the stuff. If I can find something, what she said. I had a whole bunch of stuff here. Her freedom, she goes from freedom to being captured by the white man and forced to do other things, be a white man. That's what it all boils down to. She was forced into being a white person. Yeah, kind of not fair, but it's all the same here. Okay, so let's see. So when the settlers were coming, we're going to talk about the settlers for a minute. And what happened with the settlers? Why? Oh, I lost my place. I lost that place. Sorry. This is where David would come in and he would tell me. And how life changed. Oh, well, coastal. How did that happen? Oh, hummingbird. Oh, no, I lost my place. I hate when that happens. But anyway, I better keep on. So what happened? In 1850, Congress passed the Donation Land Act, which offered 320 acres to a single white male settler and 640 acres to married couples, as long as they settled on land, cultivated the land, and for a required period. The law helped drive thousands of claims in Oregon. Oregon Encyclopedia says it led to about 7,500 claims covering over more than 2.5 million acres. Wow. So when the people say Oregon offered free land, that is mostly true for many white settlers, but it was not empty land. It was native land that the U.S. government moved to convert into settler property. So when they went to Oregon, who were the natives already living there? It depends on, there was different places. In the Willamette Valley, at least 20 tribes and bands lived there in the mid 1800s, especially the Kalapua people along the Molola and the Chinook groups. Those other people who had defined homelands, fishing places, and gathering grounds and village networks long before overland migrants arrived. Again, along the lower Columbia, the Chinookan people were major river traders and built large cedar plank houses. The Columbia was not a blank frontier. It was already a native highway and trade world. In Western Oregon, more broadly, many of those nations were represented today through tribes such as the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of the Slitsi Indians, who official histories describe removal from ancestral homes after the treaty era and the wars of the 1850s. Well, then you're going to say, wow, that doesn't sound so bad for them. Oh, yes, it was. Did the native people welcome the settlers? Well, early on, some of the immigrants, because of native trade, natives' knowledge and existing indigenous paths and river routes, once a large number of the settlers began arriving and claiming farms, cutting timber, like I was saying before, fencing land, and taking control of river valleys, relationships changed sharply. Again, the explorers, the traders, and the settlers, the miners upended native control of lands that had sustained them for thousands of years. And when they arrived, they were welcomed. It was more like small contact first, and then a mass settlement, then dispossession. Treaties in 1854 and 55 were used to extinguish native title, and many natives communities were then forced onto reservations. See, and that's the thing. You just force them onto a reservation, and there you go. So, that's what the white man did. It's kind of sad. Were the settlers safe and happy after the trails ended? Well, they were relieved, but many were not secure or comfortable. Getting to Oregon did not mean instant prosperity, and families often arrived sick, underfed, and with wore-out wagons, dead livestock, or little cash. They had to build their own shelters, clear fields, survive winter, and make farms productive. The free land only helped if you could actually work it and defend your claim and stay long enough to improve it. A lot of pioneer storytelling later made it sound like an arrival meant success, but that leaves out the reality that the frontier life stayed rough. Some families prospered over time in fertile places like the Willamette Valley, but others struggled with isolation, weather, poor harvest, illness, debt. Oregon City became a major trail terminal and settlement hub because new arrivals still needed supplies, connections, and a way to start over. And did they stay? Well, many did, but not all. Some people hated it and went back, believe it or not. A large number of immigrants stayed because land in Oregon was exactly what they had come for. But not everyone found what they expected, and some relocated within the region. Some pushed on to California or Washington, and some gave up on farming. The westward trip ended, but the work of making a life had only started. So really, some stayed and built farms and moved again, and some discovered that the dream of Oregon looked better than Missouri. And, and they did it in a wet cabin. Remember, it rains a lot on the coast. And after the first winter, the last line, that's the thing. So the Oregon Trail didn't end with somebody riding into paradise. Many settlers did get land under the Donation Act, but the land was already native homeland. That the Kapua, the Molaha, the Chinook, and many other peoples were displaced and through treaties and removal, and some settler families prospered, but plenty arrived, broke, sick, and underprepared, and labor awaited them at the end of the trail. Oh yeah, it's crazy how this, it all boils down, because when you really look at it, the people settling and getting there, and how did life change for the natives? Now, if I can find my notes here, I am gonna get back to, where was I? The Indians, because one of the big first rushes to California was during the gold rush of 1849, the 49ers. And So we're going to go to the 49ers. I got a little bit on that. So before the big settlement, remember, Spain owned the land. It was just before the 49ers come in like 47 or 48 that they did get the Spanish gave up their territory, and the United States claimed it. And over, a skirmish war that they fought, remember we talked about Kit Carson and Fremont, and they were part of all of that. And then right after that, they discovered gold, and all the people wanted to go west. So, but what happened before? In the early 1800s to 48, some early contact came through coastal trade and inland travelers, trappers, traders, and a few explorers. But Northwest California was not a mission country, and the way Los Angeles, San Diego coast war, or the coast was. So the huge wave hits later and then hits hard. The turning point for California was the gold rush in 1848 through the 1860s, because, everybody wants to get rich. Miners moved in for the rivers, especially the Calumet and the Trinity. Gold drew miners straight into rivers and the corridors, which were also the heart of native life. Remember, the Indians lived off of salmon and fishing and travel on those rivers. And what do you think happened when you have the natives, and then you have to have people, and oh my gosh, you're trying to, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you got the natives floating down the river, and you got the miners mining on the side, and they see natives, and they don't know if they're friendly or not. You know what I'm saying? There's elderberry. Hello, yes, but anyway, but that's that's the thing. The white man didn't. They were just terrified. They've heard too many stories about the natives, but he's been under the weather. Oh, but he's probably fishing. Okay, yeah, I don't know where he is. Yeah, so am I froze up? Yes, I bet you I'm froze up. That's what it was. Sorry about that. I should be watching this over here. I got all these things. I got too many things up at the same time. That's my problem. Yeah, I can see myself. That's what I should be doing. Not anymore. Yeah, I'm not froze up anymore. I was looking at the comments. You thawed now. Yes, I was froze because once I put on a different screen, then this one freezes up. I figured that out now. It's kind of funny. Okay, we're going to go to this is my thing for tribes on the coast. Well, anyway, I got to get back to this one. We're still talking about I might freeze again. So in California, we're going to talk about California. So the gold drew miners all the way there, and the mining camps brought violence, theft of food stores and constant conflict, and also disease and disruption. And disease was one of the worst things that the natives could have, was the disease, because that affected them terrible. They could have probably lived with all the other stuff, but they just couldn't handle disease. And in 1850, California enacted the Act for Government and Protection of Indians. Which just is like a year later after the 49ers came. Despite the name, it helped enable forced labor. Oh boy, this is such a good thing, huh? This is the government back in the day trying to claim the land. And despite the name, it helped enable forced labor in indenture and broad legal control over native people. Whew, gotta love that, right? Not so much. It was widely discussed as part of how violence and exploitation became systemized. Wow. I like to see that. Geez, force. They always name things for these things with good intentions. Say the Act for Government and Protection of Indians. but it just basically used them. Well, we're just going to capture them up and use them for forced labor, indentured servants, and and legal control over them. See, oh, well, that ain't so bad, right? Okay, well, treaties were negotiated and then hidden and not ratified until 1851 or 52. Yeah, that's our government for you. Wow, we wrote it up, but somebody misplaced it. Where could it be? You know what I'm saying? Oh, somebody wrote that document and they just put it down, and I don't know where it went. So it's just how it is. Anyway, federal commissioners negotiated 18 treaties with California tribes, which meant to set aside lands, but the U.S. Senate did not ratify them and even kept them secret for decades. Yep, that's our government. Result was many tribes had no treaty guaranteed land base in the way people expect from other parts of the United States. So what else is there to do was go to war. War and removal of the Northwest in the 1850s and 60s. The Calumet River violence, Red Cap conflict in 1855. And in 1855, a short but intense conflict along the Calumet is often referred to as the Calumet River Wars, involving miners, militia, army intervention, and killings on both sides, part of the border pattern of massacres and retaliations during the mining rush. Yeah, now talk about making bad blood. Then we had the Bald Hills War from 1858 to 1864. Well, that one lasted a while. One of the biggest regional conflicts was the Bald Hills War, involving militia, volunteers, and U.S. forces against multiple Native peoples in the Northwest, including groups in the Redwood Creek, Humboldt Trinity region, and connected communities. These wars often ended with forced removal. People marched or shipped to reservations, disruption of villages, and starvation conditions. Yeah. Does that sound familiar? Do you think if we ever got invaded here that the other country would not do that to us? Because that's what an invading country does. The Klamath Trinity County then had the land rush. Well, it didn't come as a slow settlement, came as a mining invasion. Rivers became battle lines, and militia companies became policy. And even when treaties were signed, they weren't honored. So displacement became the default outcome. Oh, geez, a lot of today's work around salmon restoration and land return in the lower Calumet is connected to the history and disposition, like major land return to the Yurok in our tribe, reported in 2025. Well, how interesting is that? They're giving some of the land back, because these villages were, they were salmon villages where the miners arriving and the forts, and oh boy, well, anyway, let's see, I got a little bit over here about what happened, these different tribes. There was a lot of tribes there. In the Calumet, there was the Yurok, the Karuk, the Hoopa. I think we've all heard of the Hoopa tribe. The north, that's where Bigfoot lives, over in Hoopa land. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So just hold your horses. We're going to get to it. North coast and the interior with the Pomo, many district communities around Russian River, Clear Lake region, famed basin. Oh, they make baskets and traditions rich in local variation. The Wind 2, northern interior river systems, regional lifestyles tied to salmon and mountain valleys and mountain ledges. Central coast or the Bay area was the Onlone, or the Costoan. They lived in the Bay area, which I'm sure that they don't have bay houses now. And Central Coast. Village networks tied to the shore, estuary resources. The Esleen was another tribe. Big Sur region, rugged coast and inland connections. Yeah, how about that? Anyway, then we have the Central Valley and the Sierra foothills. And then there was the Minwalk, the Sierra foothills and nearby regions, strong story cycles, including coyote traditions. That's where we get them from. The Mandu, the Northern Sierras areas, foothills, mountain ways of life, and local diversities. The Yokunuts, the Central Valley, San Joaquin, and the Foothill Valley River identity complex and local groups. Well, when you got mountain regions, seems like every valley and every mountain has a different tribe on it because they're separated by the mountains. Southern California, this is where the Chumash live, the central southern coast, ocean mastery. They had the plank canoes and the traditions often highlighted in discussion of coastal life. We have the Tongva or the Gabrielino in natives, Los Angeles Basin and islands, dense villages. Well, of course, they didn't give them a reservation in Los Angeles now, did they? Oh, yeah. They had landscape and trade networks. Okay, over to northern San Diego, where they have the Luciano Indians, inland strong communities and continuities they continue to the present. The Calhoula inland desert, mountain Indians over by Coachella Pass areas, desert adapted ways of life ceremonies. The Kune or Tilapi or Lape, the border region and inland broad territories with many communities. See, when you get flat land, you have more area to spread out and be the same. But if you're in the mountain regions, you kind of have your own little group, Of course, we get down into desert, the Colorado area. Don't forget those, the Quechin, the Colorado River region, more Fort Yuma areas, river basin culture and broad, they had a cross-border broad presence. The Mojave, over by the Colorado River, desert river lifeways, travel corridors, and they did a lot of trading. Let's see, what else is there? We got anyway, we have a story tonight too. Oh, story for tonight. Oh yeah, we got a story for tonight. Since David's not here, we're going to tell a story about when the waters went down. Okay, we're going to get over into British Columbia. Still hope I'm not frozen. I'm trying to move these things around here so I'm not frozen. Looks like on my screen that I am frozen. Oh, geez. Maybe not. Yeah. Anyway, okay. We're going to go to southwestern British Columbia, over by the Salish. I told you we're going to talk about the Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Southern British Columbia, the Salish over there, the actual word Sasquatch is commonly traced to Holokoming, a coast Salish language in southwest British Columbia, where it is connected to Sasquatch or Sasquish, hairy wild man or wild. See, so if you all think that Bigfoot just came around when the white man came, think again. He's been here for a while. And why would the Indians make up the story? Right? So they called him, their name Sasquatch or whatever was a name given to him by the Salish, and it means hairy wild man or wild man, either way. Hairy man, wild man, whatever you want to call it. A lot of the early popularization of the word Sasquatch in English comes from accounts published in the 1920s, often linked to stories told by the Salish people. Oregon and Washington also had was Bigfoot country. There's a lot of folklore over there. I don't know why I have this, I'm talking about Bigfoot, but it is kind of interesting because this is kind of where Sasquatch word came from, and this is where the stories and the folklore came from. Well, Oregon's historical summaries explicitly tie Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whichever you'd like to call them, traditions to the forested West Coast or the Pacific Northwest, where with the Sasquatch name coming down from the British Columbia coast in the Salish language roots. Northern California, the wild man or the hairy wild man stories. In Northern California, there was a long-standing indigenous accounts of wild people, hairy people in the mountains and deep forests. Oh, he looks like I'm frozen again. Maybe not. So anyway, these people lived in the deep forest. This region later became mainstream Bigfoot country in popular culture, especially today. And a big public Bigfoot flashpoint happened in Humboldt County in 1958, with the large footprints reported and helped spread the modern term Bigfoot. Okay, so we go to the tribe specifics of this wild man, hairy man traditions, rather than, so that's where it kind of come from. Central California and the Sierra Ferro foothills, the hairy man, California also has a famous, well-documented tradition tied to the Tool River Indian Reservation area and Painted Rock, where hairy man is associated with pictographs and local stories. Bet you didn't know that. Often discussed in modern times alongside Bigfoot comparisons. This is one of the, it was, so you got to think they've been drawing pictures of Bigfoot for a long time. So somebody must have seen him. The hairy man stories live up and down the forested West Coast, but the name Sasquatch traces it back to the Salish Indians regardless. And also the Tula River hairy man. I think it was when they made the casting of the foot, in the early 19th century, where they, ended up calling him Bigfoot. Sorry. So anyway, now that we went up and down the coast, and we didn't talk about the Spanish, but the Spanish were there. I think I said something about the Spanish. Most of the natives there ended up learning Spanish, just like the Apache and those southern Navajo. They did speak usually two languages, especially Spanish. But these people, the Spanish, were using the Tongva people as forced labor, again tied to building and maintaining a lot of the missions. How do you think they got the missions built? They used slave labor, gather up the Indians. They can be forced to work, and they'll be disciplined, taught religious practices, and then of course their population decline from disease. Go figure. Again, life change for the natives. The severe population loss of villages, land-based restrictions on language and spiritual practices. So they're not only losing their life, they're losing their language and their traditions. They're replacing their spiritual stuff with Christianity and Bible-based, believing in God. The people were getting sick, and I'm sure the priests and the missionaries didn't understand why would these people get sick, and then they brought them from outside of the villages. They brought the villages into the town where the missions were, so they can, and then they weren't out in their natural territory. So of course, it sounded better. There was, because the natives wanted something new trade goods and domestic animals, that entered the area. But again, mostly they were, coerced into this. Again, the natives got uprooted early, and then of course when the United States took over, the U.S. systems, they continued with the pressure. And they pushed agriculture, they pushed post-mission life into, a new control. Again, uproot the people, change them, convert them. It was just over and over and over. The earliest Alta California mission was in San Diego area. Sits in the Cumne homelands. Initially, contact included traders and escalating land seizures. It's always about the land, people. Food source distribution and coercive work demands, and we can go, we're going all the way back to 1775, the Cumne Revolt. The Cumne people attacked and burned the missions in San Diego, and this is widely treated as a major early act of resistance. See, so as we move on with all of this stuff, it never ends. It just never ends for the natives. So it's pretty sad, they just keep moving on and on. Okay, what do I got here? Oh, we got a story and to Southern California. Oh yeah, we're going to talk a little Camelith. I did all of these natives story. Oh yeah, just have to. Oh, I got some maps here. Should look at some of these maps, and we'll talk about that a little bit. I wish David was here. He always has so much to say about this stuff. So, but we are gonna share the screen. Talk a little bit about these things that we got here. I'm gonna shrink myself a little bit more, and we're gonna do that so you can see everything. I can't really make this bigger, so we'll just have to go with that. As you can see, here's California, and this is where all the natives live: the Tulanwa, the Yurok, Karak. Oh, there's a whole bunch of them. The Hoopa, and then afterwards, they took all these natives and they put them on the Hoopa reservation here. So you went from all of the Pacific coast, where nowadays all the white men live, the pale faces as they call them, and they give them this little chunk of land here, and there you go. Table Bluff Ranchera. Reservation boundary, Aboriginal tribal territory. So basically, all of this was different tribes here, where we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right there, different tribes. The coast of California, of course, a lot of these tribes lived along the coast, and that's how they made their lifestyles. Along these rivers, as you can see, these rivers, and this is just the little chunk up here in California. It's way up here in the north, this little bitty chunk, and now they just have a little bitty chunk of this Humboldt County, where as you can see, where this is just the one little deal, and so now they have this little square. So you took all these natives and now you make them live on the little square. Kind of sad. But hey, that's what pays the taxes, right? Beautiful country out there. Look at rolling hills, trees, rivers. Gosh, you gotta love it. Can't ask for much better. Hope you enjoyed all that, because I think I got some more. What did these Indians actually look like? Well, we were looking at the Hoopa Valley here. Language, Hoopa is Athabascan. They speak Athabascan. Many culture elements tie northward, but they are also share California lifeways, not like Acorn use the ceremonial patterns. The gold rush era brought intense outside pressure into that region too. Oh, anyway, okay, I got some more pictures here somewhere. I just have to find them. I don't know where they are. I wanted to show you guys pictures of the natives. I have them here. Oh, here we go. And then I can share back. So, the California natives had their own look. Not like the Plains tribes, not like the Eastern tribes. They really had their own look. Not the normal, look. Like they had a different look. And as you can see here, this is a native tribe from California, the Kootenai. So I can imagine being a white man and you're going from the East Coast, where at the time, most of the natives were dressing like the white man. And then you move into the plains where the natives were dressing, well, we all know they were probably not dressing in much, some buckskins and things like that. And then you get to California, and all of a sudden you got these painted natives, and they're all, wearing different kinds of headdresses and feathers and painting their faces. And, it could be scary. Of course, you got different ones here where they're wearing different kinds of hats. You gotta figure it's the region that you live in. Thanks, Chris Smith. Thank you for joining us tonight. He's going to watch NCIS. I guess NCIS has a little bit more enthusiasm than we do, but hey, we try here. But anyway, you can see by these natives here, they got different kinds of hats instead of the big native Indian feathery things going on. If you really look close, and I can't really blow this up, but they do have mustaches, believe it or not. All of them do. Well, this one does. Well, maybe. And here we go. A dugout canoe is, remember, you're in the mountainous area with the giant trees, and they would dig. This would be a tree, and they would just dig it out from a log by burning and chopping and burning and chopping, and you could make a huge canoe that could sail over these rivers and hit rocks and stuff and still survive. Whereas you had a birch bark canoe like the natives do in the central states, or even in the eastern states, that canoe probably wouldn't last on one of the rocky rivers in the mountains. And of course, again, this is how the natives would have had grass huts. They lived along the river. This would have been their river. The river is their highway. It's not up to me. It's my wife's decision. Go ahead, Chris. You just go right ahead. Watch NCS. Say hi to your wife for me. Thank you for joining us. That she's just not into this Native Americans stuff. Anyway, probably. Anyway, you can see the holes in the top of the huts where the smoke would go out. Each one is kind of cool because each one of these, and there's a lot of them. This is probably a Caitlin drawing, from back in the day, because he visited all these places. No, it says a Russell something something. Russell Riz. Anyway, they would have had a fire inside, and smoke would travel up the top. And I suppose during rainy weather, they would put the top down so the water wouldn't pour in. And then you got the river to travel by, to fish, to do all your transportation needs. So that's kind of a good thing. Again, okay, now we are going back to another thing. Boy, the night's going fast. We're only at an hour, but I'm already down to the story for tonight, because that's about all I'm going to have for tonight on the California Indians and the coastal. But we got lots more coastal to check out. So I dropped something. Next week, we're going to be digging into each one of those tribes. We'll pick a tribe, and we'll talk more about each tribe so that we don't leave somebody out in the cold, because, hey, each one is important. They're important to me, and they should be important to you, because they're, they have lives too. They have deep-rooted traditions. They've been there for thousands of years. And then we come in and we just bulldoze their houses, straighten the rivers, build condominiums, just houses, towns, stores, ship products in with big giant ships, and, destroy the salmon and all of that good stuff. So, that's just the way the world works. Oh, why did my thing get all blurry? Oh, yeah. Well, so much for the camera. Okay, so tonight we have a story, and tonight's story is one kind of from California, best I can find. It's When the Waters Went Down. This is a picture California before the roads and before the missions and before the fence posts or plowshare even cut the land. There was water over the world, not a river out of its banks, not a storm, the whole world underwater. Again, another flood story. And above the water, on a high place of Pico Blanco, stood three beings: Eagle, who saw far; Hummingbird, quick and bright; and Coyote, restless as ever, never still and never quiet, always thinking and asking. Now that the waters kept rising under them, they touched their feet. So the eagle did what only eagle could do. He gathered Hummingbird and Coyote and lifted them up, carrying them away to the Galbian Mountains, where they waited on a high ridge while the water slowly went down and the earth began to show itself again. When at last the water had fallen back, an eagle turned to Coyote and said, "Go down, see if the world is dry." Now Coyote went, because that is what the way of Coyote, curious and eager, and wanting to be the first to see what waited below. He came back and said, "The world is dry." And the eagle told him, "Go look again. Look into the river. See what is there." So Coyote went back. He looked into the river, and when he came back, he was changed. His eyes were wide. There's a girl there," he said. "A beautiful girl." And Eagle said, "She will be your wife, so that people may be raised again." Now, this is where the story becomes truly Coyote's story, because Coyote wanted to know everything at once. He wanted the answer before the answer was ready. He asked Eagle, "How will people come? How will children be made?" But Eagle did not tell him. Maybe he wanted to see whether Coyote had any wisdom in him. Maybe he knew that some things have to be learned and not handed over too easily. But Coyote would not let it go. He guessed at the knee. "No," said Eagle. "I guessed at the elbow." "No." He guessed at the eyebrow. "No." He guessed at the neck. Still no. And all the while, Coyote kept trying to outguess the order of the world, trying to force the answer. Then little Hummingbird, small but sharp, spoke up and said, "No, brother, not there. Here, in the belly." And Hummingbird was right. Now, Coyote did not like being corrected, especially not by someone small. That too is the way of Coyote. He wants the answer, but he also wants the pride of having found it. So he grew angry. But the world does not stop because Coyote is angry. The woman became his wife, and from that union the people were raised again. And so the world after that flood was not just dry. There was just not just dry land. It became a human world once again. The world of villages, trails, food, speech, children, quarrels, laughter, and memory. A world beginning again. Why this one? Well, and that's the whole thing. That's the end of the story. But anyway, let's talk about that. Here again is a flood story. And they're saying that they got to repopulate the place where there was people once before. And now they're all gone, and we got to repopulate the world. It's like it's that thing. So maybe one man and woman left after the flood, and they had to repopulate everything. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? It really does. Boy, that was a short story. I'm gonna see if we got another one. So anyway, I see Scotty Boy's here. He says repopulate. Scotty Boy, do you know how to repopulate? Are you like Coyote and say it's going to come out of your elbow or out of your knee? Where is? Anyway, so like I said, the flood comes and they go to the highest mountain. And that is not the only story like that. There's lots of stories. We talked about the turtle. Remember, the turtle was the land, and then they all sat on turtle's back or something like that. Turtle came up and he made the land, and we're all living on the back of a turtle. Okay, so anyway, here, since I read that one pretty fast, let's see. Real evil. I remember sit over the. No, on a different one. I'm trying to dig up a story. I might as well read to them. No, there's. Well, anyway, dead air. Anyway, this is where David would come in handy. So, but I don't know where he is tonight. Breeding comes so naturally, like eating. Yes, good job, Scotty boy. At least you know what it's all about, don't you? We had to teach us to eat, or we die. Breeding, no different. No, I think breeding comes naturally. I think that's a hormonal thing. It's it's one of those deals. Teach us to eat. I love that. Keyword, right? Let's see. Anyway, we'll go with the repopulate. I love that. Repopulate. Make more. Breeding is like so natural, like eating. I like it. I know I'm not the storyteller David Null is, but Hawkeye is. But I hope he's doing well. 4-2 haze. The background image isn't AI generated. Yes, it is. That was an AI generated thing. I put it into the thing, and it gives me a really good background, the best I can find. I mean, it's hard to make backgrounds, really. It is the back. How else do you make them nowadays? I suppose I could sit there, and I used to do other pictures or this picture, that picture, but sometimes it really gives me a good picture. You got to remember, I spend quite a bit of time trying to, find all this information. I got tons of books that I got to go through. I'll share with you. I did read some of this book here, California Indians. This is from the California Indians from the Time Life books. If you haven't read this is a great book to go by. California Indians, the editor, Time Life books. This is a great book. So, there's lots of pictures in there. I got the whole bunch, all the native ones. I wish I could get the pictures out of here. They show, everybody in there. If I put it back far enough, it goes right. But if I put it up, then I lose the picture. Gotta love technology, tells everything from rights of religion, the impact of the missions, which had a lot to do. Shows all kinds of pottery that they made. If you haven't known, they were big basket weavers, pottery makers. But I suppose being along the rivers, they had plenty of clay to make, and they had lots of reeds and cattails to make baskets. There's a lot of stuff here to look through. Remember, they had palm trees in that area to weave baskets too. Like I said, I read a lot on that book, but it's hard to get the book on the thing. And then I got a lot of other books, but they're old, and then I put them into the computer and it regenerates them, and so I can read them. Otherwise, I got to page through those PDFs, and it makes it hard. But hey, I do the best I can. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. It makes a lot of work. So, but anyway, I hope you all, go out and remember to get a mug. The link is in the pinned comment. There's Native American Myths and Legends with Robert and David, the best storyteller on YouTube, Hawkeye Two Feathers. I know it's hard to follow up. He shows up in the hospital bed for God's sakes. Yeah, Scotty boy, I have called him and I didn't get a hold of him. I don't know. I talked to him last week, and we'll see. I called his cell phone. Anyway, we're gonna get on with the show. I hope he gets a hold of me now. I mean, Scotty boy, you're making me worried. Just send good prayers to David, and he will show up sooner or later, I'm sure. Send him several emails. I sent him an email a while ago, like this weekend, and I didn't get nothing. Okay, let's go on with the next story. If I can do this, maybe I can do this. We'll just read it on the thing. Share screen. I don't know. And here we go. I know it ain't the same as David because then we work together on all this and it turns out a lot better, but I'm just going to do it like this. So another story for tonight, and how coyotes stole fire. Be careful about using, before I get on with the story, be careful about using AI too much. The water shortages in Southwest are starting to affect people pretty badly. AI data centers use lots of water for cooling purposes. Yes. 4-2 Hayes, did you miss my show on data centers? Yeah, maybe you missed that. I just did a show on data centers. You can look it up. It's under my channel here. And I did the data center show, which said how much energy and how many data centers they were using. And that if you do a Google search versus a chat GPT search, that the chat GPT search takes 10 times more energy than a Google search. Go figure on that one. I know it's crazy, isn't it? I like AI. I don't like what it's doing. I think we're all getting forced in some way or another to use it. It's everywhere. I don't know what to do about it. I wish I did. I mean, we could boycott data centers, but can we? They're just going to keep building them. And it's not because I really don't think it's because I'm using the data on a chat or whatever so much. I think it's these businesses that, when I know this doesn't have anything to do with Native American myths and legends, but I think it's all about the businesses that, I just heard one place the other day, they said they were going to get rid of half of their employees. They had 8,000 employees and they were going to get rid of 4,000 employees and replace them with AI. Now you're looking at 4,000 people probably doing the work of 8,000 people using AI. Now, all at the same time, every day, all the time, and doing more. Now, that just tells me that, that's the people that are using the information way more than me, who gets on here and has, makes a image, and asks it a few questions and stuff here and there. The usage that I actually use it is, maybe maybe 4 or 5 hours a week. It's kind of crazy, but it helps me find stuff and learn things. And, in the big picture, I really helps me, but I don't use it that much that I would affect the world. It's kind of like which is worse, the guy, hauling a big truck, full of a diesel truck driving across the country, or the locomotive that brings tons and tons and tons of goods on rail cars across the country. It's that diesel truck because and the train pulls 100 cars at a time. Sure, it uses a lot more fuel, but if you really think about how many diesel trucks it takes to haul all those cars, yeah. And then you have to compare that to a little car that you'd be taking to work, and then you say, wow, that little car is burning all that gas and polluting the area. No, you burn all that fuel up in the big trucks and in the train and all this other stuff. They're the ones taking up, the energy. My little car is not gonna affect the ozone and all of that because I got one little car that barely burns any gas. So, nonetheless. Anyway, we got to get on with the story, and we're gonna probably maybe I got a thing that can pull cards or something in a second, and then we will. I have cards up there. I didn't know he wasn't going to show up, so I will read the story, and then we'll pull a card, and I'll tell you what it is in a second. So, story for tonight, another one. Story 2, how Coyote stole fire, and goes like this. Before there was fire among the people, the nights were cold, not just chilly, cold in the bones, cold in the hands, and cold in the dark places where people huddled and waited for dawn. And in those days, the fire was not shared. It belonged to Turtle. Turtle had all of it. He sat on it, covered it up, and kept it hidden far away in the mountains to the east, where nobody else could get near it. Coyote saw this and thought, that's not right. Fire ought to be for the world. But Coyote never walks straight at a thing if he can trick his way into it. So he went up into the mountains where Turtle kept the fire, and there he did something only Coyote wouldn't think to do. He laid himself down and made himself look like a dead piece of wood. Before long, the people there came and saw him. Here's a good piece of wood, they said. Take it home. And so they picked it up, not knowing who he was, not knowing what they carried, and they brought him right into the place where the fire burned. And then they threw that piece of wood into the fire. That was exactly what Coyote wanted. He wriggled and pushed and worked his way under Turtle, who sat guarding the flames. Turtle felt it and said, "Stop pushing me." But Coyote kept at it. And then at last, he got what he came for. He caught hold of the fire. And at that moment, he had it. He ran downhill, westward, running with fire. You can just see him, smoke behind him, sparks flying, the dark world about to change. And that is how the people came to have fire. This was from a book, the Ponachi Minwok, The Theft of Fire. So, there you go. This is a California tale told. It's about a coyote stealing the fire. Elderberry says, that Hawkeye might have went fishing. A friend come up. That's where he went. Okay, well, good for him. I hope he catches a lot. It's going to be good. I know he's been wanting to go fishing for quite a while, so good deal. Anyway, let's see if I can find the cards. And I got the book. Now, I don't have the cards that he has, but I do have a card. Now, my cards are not animal cards, so lucky you don't have to put a lot of effort into doing the cards or the names tonight because I don't have that deck of cards. I got these cards, which are different. As you can see, I got this, and they got cool animal things on them and stuff, whatever. And then I got a book. Got the book, and this is called this is the Sacred Path cards. So tonight we're going to get a different kind of reading. Sacred Path. There's Nina, Beyond Truth. Remember, she's got all new merch, Beyond Truth stuff. Haven't got my stuff yet, but it should be on the way soon, as she informed me. And hopefully that will all be good. Can't wait. If you want, you can go over there and buy yourself one of these shirts, and you can get the new Beyond Truth shirts. 2 decks of those cards. If I was hope I could have given a card. Yes, Yes, you could. Anyway, but tonight we're going to have these cards, I guess. So until I get a set of animal cards for myself, I guess we're going to have these cards. I should get an animal set, but he's always got the cards and he does a good reading on them. So if I could just hope to be half as good as he is, we'll have a yeah, I know it was home, not hope. Right, Lucky. I know. So we've got a card, and I'm going to pull the top card, and voila, it is the pipe. The pipe. Number 1, right up front. Listen, we'll see what it says. Oh, it's right up front. It's the first one, number 1. Five. 1, the pipe. Sorry, everybody. I'm just kind of not prepared to do the cards as normal because that's David's thing. Hawkeye just has a better way of doing it. The pipe. Today is the prayer, the inner peace. And of course, it's the teaching. From the moment the great white buffalo calf woman appeared to the Sioux Nation, the pipe has been a sacred medicine shared by the brothers and sisters of Native Americans, the way to pray, speak truth, and heal wounded or broken relationships. We are given the pipe to send our prayers and gratitude to the great mystery and to signify peace among the nations, tribes, and clans. The bowl of the pipe represents the female aspect of all living things, and the stem is the symbol of the male aspect. I did not know that. In all living forms. When the stem is placed in the bowl, this act signifies union, creation, and fertility. Remember, when smoke goes up, it sends the message or whatever your intentions are into space. Okay, when the pipe is loaded, each pinch of tobacco is blessed as each branch of our relations. It asks to enter the pipe in their spirit form to be honored and smoked. We honor Mother Earth, Father Sky, Grandfather Sun, and Grandmother Moon, and the 4 directions: east, west, north, south. So anyway, the standing people, which is the trees, the stone people, the giants, the winged ones, and the finned ones, and the 4-legged ones, and the creepy crawlers, the insects, the great nation, or the great star nation, the sky brothers and the sisters, and the subterraneans. What are they talking about there? What do they know that we don't know? The thunder beings and the 4 chief spirits: earth, air, water, and fire, and all 2-legged in the human family. Where is it? Why would they say 2-legged in the human? Is there 4-legged? Crystal Shaman, thank you for showing up tonight. Look at you're there. Good deal. Thank you for coming. If smoking the pipe is the utmost importance to smoke every pinch of tobacco that was loaded in the bowl. Each flake of tobacco has taken a spirit into its body and is honored as having an essence of all relations in its form. If the fire, which is part of the eternal flame of life, does not touch and ignite the tobacco, the spirit that is inside cannot be released in smoke. If the smoke is not taken into the body, the spirits, the spirit of our relations and our ancestors cannot come into communion with us. To empty out the bowl that is not been fully smoked is to commit a grave error and dishonors those spirits who have come to smoke with us. The reckless use of the sacred pipe can stifle the willingness of spirits to assist us in our quest for wholeness. I bet you didn't know all of that, did you? Because I didn't. I had no idea. The smoke from the pipe represents visualized prayer and reminds us of the Spirit in all things, and will return to that original source. Due to its understanding, we know that we are all walking the same path, stepping out each spoke of the sacred hoop or the wheel of life. We find union with all our relations when we share the pipe. The essence of every living creature enters us when we smoke them, and we carry their spirits inside our bodies. We are reminded that harmony is obtained through sacred union with the fellow beings. We never place the spirit of any life form outside of ourselves, since through the pipe we have asked them to enter our being and share our sacred space and life experience. How nice is that? I never really thought about it like that. The to a way to commune with the spirits. By, of course, they weren't smoking, chemicalized tobacco like they have now. They were smoking the real thing, or they were smoking, some kind of sage, or some other kind of plants or something, whatever. But they sure weren't smoking the stuff that we have nowadays. And who knows? Okay. Let's see. I'm going to skip some of this. And what does it say? We got a story about this. It's an aspect of teaching of the pipe, as has to do with peace of the multi-level of the modern world. We often look at peace as an absence. Well, this is going to be good. Absence of war, but peace represents more in the native way of thinking. Peace is a way of acting, knowing, creating, listening, and speaking, and or living. In all instances, peace comes from within our own beingness. This peace is the balance of recognizing and honoring male and female, teaching, learning, humility, pride, and every aspect of living in harmony. It is not something that we can be weighed except by the self. If there were to be a measure, it would be measured by the capacity of the heart to remain open and sincere, unafraid. Walking, I'm strutting my path. Really need to grow our own tobacco. Yes, I agree. But you can, go buy some tobacco seeds. They're online. I bought some for my buddy in Wisconsin once for a present. And he grew them. He said they were really itty bitty tiny seeds. They're really itty bitty small. And he says, but they grew. And he harvested some tobacco and tried it, and so I don't know how it ended up turning out, so good or bad, but he had it for a long time. He says it was pretty decent. Okay, so for the story, for the pipe, it says my grandfather took me to a fresh pond on the farm when I was about 7 and told me to throw a stone into the water. He told me to watch the circles created by the stone. Then he asked me to think of myself as the stone, of the stone person. You may create lots of splashes in your life, but the waves that come from those splashes will disturb the peace of all your fellow creatures. He said, remember that if you are responsible for what you put in your circle, and that your circle will also touch many other circles, you will need to live in a way that allows the good that comes from your circle to send the peace of all of that goodness to others. The splash that comes from anger or jealousy will send those ugly feelings to other circles. You are responsible for both. I guess that's true. You are the rock that goes into the water, and every time you skip on the water and make a splash, or that bloop, you see all the little the ripples go out, and how they affect everything else on the top of that water. And that is us. So every action that you cause has other reactions. So anyway, that was the first time I realized each person creates the inner peace or discord that flows into the world. We cannot create world peace if we are riddled with inner conflict, hatred, doubt, or anger. We radiate the feelings and thoughts that would hold inside, whether we speak them or not, whether it's splashing around inside of us, is spilling out into the world, creating beauty or discord with all the other circles of life. Remember, everybody has their own circle. And, when you splash it, it's all over the place. And it just, it's not only you splashing the water, everybody's splashing the water. You splash a big wave and, you're going to affect other people's waves. So the best is to make a nice wave that doesn't affect everybody, it doesn't create, because, us humans, we're terrible at war. We're terrible at, being at peace is a learned effect. It's easy to be angry. It's easy to, lie and cheat and steal and all these other things. It's hard to tell the truth. It's hard to be nice. It's hard to be giving and thoughtful and those things that go with it. So I guess that's where the sacred pipe comes in. So it says, so sacred is the person's word and honor that is to be upheld even at the cost paid dearly in that person's life. Anytime the pipe is shared, the words spoken and agreements made are based upon the Indian idea of honor, truth, and mutual understanding stemming from each person's inner peace. This card speaks of inner peace and can be found throughout balancing of self. It is now time to honor both sides of your nature, the male and the female, to acknowledge that the eternal flame of the great mystery that lives inside you and how you influence the lives of others depends upon this balance. So, it says go out and find your inner peace, maybe meditate on it or pray on it, for the great mystery is all around you and everywhere. And it's your job to tame that wild ass being inside you and become that, find that inner peace and do those things, find your honor, your truth, and your understanding of the world, because it's all inside you. No more wisdom for me. Oh no, Nina, you are full of wisdom. Anyway, so that's kind of the thing for the pipe. That was a good card, especially this time. I guess it fits because, yes, that's right. We definitely need to tame ourselves. That's the thing. Which, if you really think of it, just watch a little kid, a little child, a young child. What does a young child do? The one thing they know is they know how to. You ask them, "Did you do that?" "No, I didn't." Then they don't know. They like to lie. You got something they want. They go, just take it, and you can steal it. That's what they do. And then, lie, cheat, steal, be mad and angry. It's nothing for a little kid to come up and just, hit you, or, they take something and throw it at you. Violence is natural, but it's the taming down, taming your spirit. Maybe that's what we're all here for, is to calm that inner self and learn control and to be better. There's a lot of things, a lot of thoughts in that. If you have any questions on that, don't ask me, ask yourself. And then why don't you leave your answers in the comments below, and I could read them later, because I think there's a lot to it. What do you think? Are we horrible, rotten people and we learn to be nice? Is that our job here on this third plane of density? Is this what we were meant to do? Is this a training ground? Is this what we're here to do, is help others and improve ourselves? Or are we just here to, have a good time? Who cares what we do? Party it up and live life to its fullest. I think each experience that we have teaches us a lesson. I think we need to learn these things, contact the great mystery. It's all around us. I think the natives had it right. Religion, is a infrastructure of laws and rules that you submit to. And I think we submit to too many laws and rules all the time, from government and state and town and, and other things. Or job, you go to the job and it tells you everything about, what to do. Today we're going to do this, and you need to dress like that, and you need to come in at this time, and this is what you do, or you get fired. But if you, and then just like anything else, if you're in town, you speed, you get a ticket for speeding. If you steal something, you go to jail. If you, and you get fines and things because you didn't comply to those rules. And again, if you're in religion, it's not about getting to God or getting to heaven. They set up a bunch of control mechanisms, to guide you to be all of these things. And this is the rule book. And if you just follow it, you'll get there. Well, is that really it? You just set up more rules. The rules of the land are the same thing. Don't lie, cheat, and steal. Well, that'll get you in big trouble. And if you're in church, well, if you're in a religion, well, that'll get you in big trouble too. And now all of a sudden you have the disappointment of burning in the flames of hell for the rest of eternity for some stupid little thing you did. Anyway, there's my rant. And if you get a chance to get over to my channel again, you come on over there on Saturday nights. We're doing a series on the Law of One. I got all 3 books now. The other book finally came in the mail, so we're still on book 1, and you're going to find out all about Ra and how thousands of years he was giving information to people to lift them up and follow the Law of One. And it's kind of reminds me of the Great Mystery. He's talking about the Great Mystery that the Indians were talking about. And then, of course, you got religion that came in, and religion said, no, don't listen to the mystery. Don't listen to this. Don't listen to that. I got a good book here, and this book is going to, I don't have the book here. But anyway, the book will tell you everything you need to know. And does it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't tell you anything you need to know. It doesn't tell you to look inside yourself for the answers. The mystery, the Great Mystery, is all around us. It tells you to, follow the rules and the laws and do what they say and give your 10%. And when you're done with giving the 10%, well, then you should be good, and then you better, whatever. You better do all these things. The answers are in you. Just sit there. Do some meditation. Now, if you're native, you can build yourself one of those little huts. You can take some ayahuasca or something like that and, go on a spiritual journey. Maybe we all need to go on some spiritual journey to figure out what we really want to do. Because obviously, obviously we don't know what we're doing. I can guarantee you that most of you people out there you're just trying to figure out the answers. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't want to figure out anything. So anyway, yeah, Nina's in there. She's the Beyond Truth. If you haven't seen Beyond Truth, we're on there. She's got the new logo out. We've done several shows. They're pretty darn good. Everything from aliens to spirits inside the computer. And much more. Some great guests coming up soon. Been knocking out the shows over there. She's all over everything from, what was it? Can't think of that one. But anyways, she's all over the place on Facebook and Instagram. And we have shorts up all over the place. She's been hard at work on making those shorts. Thank you for all you do, Nina. I much appreciate it. And oh gosh, I can't think. Anyway, all the links are down below, everybody. You want to check her out, go over there, get on the Streamlabs and buy a shirt, a hat, something, and support us both promoting and watching the show and help and support everything, all year long, because it's all about that. There's Trina. Indeed. They're trying to figure out this wacky world out. Hey, Katrina, thank you for showing up. That we're all trying to figure out this wacky world. The great mystery that the natives talk about is they've been doing it a lot longer and sticking with the same subject without a Bible for thousands of years, and probably way longer than the Bible was ever created. And they've been pushing it down through word of mouth, and it hasn't really changed much. So why do we need a book to tell us what to do and how to act? Who wrote that book anyway? And has it been revised? Of course it has. Man wrote it. And yeah, sure, there's some weird things about the Bible, but hey, it's all it's in your own interpretation. If you do read the Bible, I hope you get something out of it. But for the most part, everything you need to know or want to know is all around you. Be quiet, meditate a little bit. Just try to listen. If you listen, the words will come into your brain. And the words are out there. The voices are out there. You just have to listen. Be quiet. Quiet your mind. Quiet your body. Be at peace. Maybe this is about the peace pipe and all. Be at peace. Listen. Shut the TV off. Turn the phone off. Put it somewhere else. Meditate for a while. You'll figure out the answers. And when you do, leave them in the comments below. Be still and know that I am. Yes, Trina, you got it right on. Spot on. I couldn't have said it better than that. Yeah. Be still and know that I am. Because you are. Very good. The key is to be open-minded and be willing to change your belief system. Yeah, that's right. The thing is you have to, if you were indoctrinated into something, be open-minded, and say, wait a minute, if this is how I grew up and there's about 10,000 different religions out there, is mine the right one? Is this what I should be doing? Who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe that's the path for you, but maybe it isn't. Maybe most people have been all wrong. I read a book and the answers of the universe and everything is 42. Yes, I read a book and the answer to life and the universe is 42. Yeah, I did the movie. What is it? I just watched it not too long ago again for the umpteenth time. The Traveler's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yes, if you haven't watched that, we still got 20 minutes. Yeah, well, I ain't gonna go on for 20 minutes. David ain't here to talk with. Yeah, the answer is 42. That's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you haven't watched, go watch that. Remember, you are you. You are the spark of creation, the spark of God, the creator, whatever, and he is experiencing everything through you and everybody else. So don't just go home, go to work, have a mundane life, experience things and do things. It's all about the experience. Take a trip, meet people. Remember, like I always say, wave to somebody, make somebody's day. That's the ripples in the water. That is the thing. Experience, make memories. When you passed out of this living body, you got some memories to share with the creator up there, wherever he is, all around you. How do I keep pointing up there? See what the Bible does to you? Anyway, with all of that, remember, it's always good we'll just say for tonight, it's good to make ripples that are good, that interact with other ripples from other people that are good. And together we all create peace. So go out there and do your piece. That's the thing. Do your piece, interacting with other people's peace. And maybe this world will finally get back to normal. I mean, it's not you and me out there causing any crazy wars or making negative thoughts. We have to be the driving force, creating positive thoughts that will interact with all those others and calm everything back down. Just one drop. Remember, it takes a drop, many drops to make an ocean. And each one of you is a drop. And if we have enough drops, we'll make a bigger ocean than the other one. So with that, everybody, remember to go out and do something nice for somebody. Interact, be that drop that makes the ocean. So with that, everybody, just keep a smile on and live a good life and give some good intentions for Hawkeye. And we'll see what happens for him next week. Hopefully he's here to join us, everybody, and go out and be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love y'all. Peace, everybody.